Hey everyone. So, I've been reading this book for the past week now. It's called Sapiens. I talked about it in my podcast a little bit. I finished this chapter in the book. I believe it was titled Floods. What it covered was how Homo Sapiens were the first and only animals to do a lot of things. But in particular, what it was talking about in this chapter was colonization. Before you go and think European colonization over to America and you want to crucify Christopher Columbus, before you do all that, I'm talking about colonization 45,000 years ago. That is apparently, what I just learned, super important to our history. 45,000 years ago, humans, Homo sapiens, you and I, traveled from the Afro-Asia region, the African and Asian region, where we originated, to Australia. Archaeologists are unsure how we really did it. There's some evidence to suggest that we were able to master the waves and things of that nature, which is pretty obvious if we made it to Australia. When we got there, it was inhabited. It was inhabited by humans before that. So wildlife flourished. There was a bunch of greenlands. There were huge kangaroos. There were huge lions. There were wombats that weighed, I think, 2.5 tons. They were giant. These giant animals, multiple other giant animals as well. Marsupials. And what happened when we got there is something that has happened traditionally throughout history when humans discover a new territory. That is, the wildlife quickly depleted. There's a bunch of different theories on how that happened. Some argue climate change alone, which doesn't make sense because a lot of these animals were there for millions of years before we got there. And when we got there, they only lasted maybe another 10,000 years or so. This happened universally. When we went to America, when we first made the trek to America, crossing from Siberia to Alaska, because at the time there was a landmass there acting as a bridge, so people, there was no need to create a raft or anything. People could walk it. Mammoths, they were completely extinct after we made that trek. There were giant sloths that lived in America that were up to 20 feet high and a couple tons in weight. They're extinct. There were lions here. There was a bunch of other animals. And shortly after our arrival, they all died off. Saber-toothed tiger is a notorious one. All died off. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because we have such a limited view of history, and it is sickening. And the reason it is sickening is because the left is using history as a tool to create radical extremists and lead them to a dangerous ideology to try to destroy everything we have built in America and everything capitalism has done for us and everything the republic, a democracy, and the revolution that started here in America. That, yes, the American Revolution created a wave of other revolutions for countries to gain their independency. The left is demonizing history and only using a sliver of what actually occurred throughout human existence, and it is sickening. We have time and time again, not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, it is human nature for us to be conquerors. It isn't just one race, it isn't just the whites, it isn't just the Europeans. No, it is Homo sapiens as a whole. We are the only race of humans that have traveled outside of our little tribal groups and ventured out to different territories and started conquering new lands. We're the only ones. We're the only species that do that. And we're the only species that typically have warfare amongst each other. This is not strictly to one race. This is a ubiquitous thing across our race, across our species. Homo sapiens. We are conquerors. That is what we do because we're at the top of our food chain. So, with the agricultural extinction of certain animals because we started plowing large fields and killing off animals to protect our crops, and to the Industrial Revolution, which took away a lot of wildlife but created a lot of wealth. And actually, there's an interesting article that illustrates once there's more wealth in a nation, people start caring about the environment more because we can afford to do so. But when there's no wealth, we can't afford to care about the environment. If we do, then we are not going to live ourselves. This is a survival of the fittest. People forget that life is a dog-eat-dog game. Nobody cares about you. I mean, I'm sure you have family members that do. You have friends that do. You have your community that cares about you. But in the grand scheme of things, we are pretty insignificant as individuals. And animals don't give a shit about us. If we are in the plains of savannah or something, a lion wouldn't take 2 seconds to eat you if it was hungry. That's what we had to do when we were creating the world we live in now. First world, that's what we had to do. We had to not care about the other species in order to get to where we are. Some may say it's heartless, some may say it's wrong. There's an argument to be had there. However, it is non-negotiable, or there's no debate either, that we needed to do what we did in the past to get to where we are. That being said, it should come to no surprise that when it comes to the next revolution, the fourth wave revolution where AI is created, that there's going to be more animals that go extinct. There's going to be more landmass that are wiped out and completely urbanized. That is going to happen. And we shouldn't look at it as a sad thing. This is what we have done throughout our whole existence. Homo sapiens, that is. So, instead of demonizing one race, instead of demonizing the advancements of our society in which we live in now, we should be appreciative to live on the cusp of great things. And we're living in a time where so many amazing things are going to happen in the future. There's talks about the ending of aging. A cure for aging is coming out within the next 20 years, scientists believe. There's even some scientists who believe that the first human to live to 1,000 has already been born. There are so many advancements we're making. And there's so many other things we should be concerned about, yet we demonize one race of people for conquering and acting as if it is not a natural instinct for Homo sapiens to do. It is completely wrong and it is completely ignorant. And unfortunately, so many people in colleges are teaching young, impressionable minds that America is this haven for hatred. It is this disgusting place that is ignorant and needs to be cleansed of its past. That is so wrong. It is so wrong. So that's my rant right there. This book, Sapiens, is really opening my eyes to the larger scale of history. I understood some of these things. For instance, slavery is ubiquitous. It isn't just exclusive to African Americans, nor is it exclusive to America. There's still 40 million slaves across the world. So, yeah, there's so many things that the media, that the left do not tell you about and make it seem as if we live in this uniquely hate-filled culture that is racist, and it is wrong. It is wrong on so many levels. And hopefully by me doing these talks and sharing this information I learned will help people realize that what is being told to them is, for the most part, a bunch of bullshit. Excuse my language. So, yeah, that's what I have to say on that. That's my thoughts. And, yeah, so I hope you all have a wonderful Monday. And, yeah, do your thing, baby.